I am doing my presentation on the Gulf War, and I am interviewing Ronnie Scott. Mr. Scott, what was the reasoning for joining the war? Why do you think the United States wanted to join?
It was Iraq had invaded Kuwait in August 2nd of 1990, and President Bush decided that we were going to go in and liberate Kuwait from Iraq, and that's what I was told.
Why did you join?
I joined. There's a lot of benefits. Everyone in my family had been in the military. My dad, my granddad, his dad, so on and so forth. I joined for that main reason, and then of course, there's always a lot of benefits, college, money, and all that stuff.
When were you deployed?
I was deployed in August 21st, 1990. We were one of the first units to go there. Initially, we went for 3 months to Saudi Arabia. That was called Operation Desert Shield. It wasn't yet a war. It was just a build-up.
What did you specialize in?
Well, to start with, when I first got there, I was in an air defense artillery unit, anti-aircraft missiles, anti-missile missiles, surface to air, and I was in a INKP, or Instructor and Key Personnel unit, where we instructed and trained Saudi soldiers to fire the missile system, the Avenger missile system. Trained them to use that equipment. After about 2.5 months in Saudi Arabia, during the build-up, we finished training the Saudi soldiers. We sold the equipment to their government and their army, and we moved off to different MOSs. I moved off to a recon unit, did reconnaissance the rest of the war.
What regiment were you in?
I was with the 1st Cavalry Division out of Fort Hood, Texas, with that 4th and 5th 88 to start with, and I got moved to the unit I was detached to in the 2nd AD.
How many people were in your regiment?
The division was, thousands. My actual unit that I was detached to from the beginning was about 100, 150, but my recon unit consisted of 7 people.
Were you in many firefights?
2 major skirmishes. Neither one of them lasted very long, an hour or less.
Did the civilians try attacking much?
We never had much trouble with civilians. Desert Storm was a lot different than some of the later Gulf Wars, Iraqi Freedom and Afghanistan and things of that sort. It's a little different. It was more of a blitz, largest deployment of American troops since World War II, largest buildup of American forces and Allied forces. It was a little different.
Mm-hmm. How many kills did you get, firm?
That I couldn't tell you. There was so much distance fighting, and there was so much actual different types of fighting. I couldn't tell you that number. That's more of a sniper question.
Okay. When did you come home from the war?
Well, I came home about 2 weeks earlier than my unit. I had some urgent issues at home with my family. So once the war was over, I came back and I think my whole unit was able to return by before the end of February of 1991.
You know when the war ended?
Officially, I believe it was in February or March. We were replaced by some Reserve and National Guard units. Basically, the war was practically over, in the first few days, in my opinion. Our Air Force just obliterated, the whole country. And what they didn't, finish off, our infantry did, or our artillery did. It didn't last as long as most wars do.
So, with you could say, other nations going against Iraq and all of them, what was probably the comparison like to the arms and men?
I would say, are you asking about the rest of the
like a lot of troops,
coalition forces?
Yes.
How were they? I fought with French soldiers, with British soldiers, with Israeli soldiers. I would say as far as their weaponry goes, most of it's American weaponry anyway. We were carrying M16s and M4s at the time. They all pretty close to had what we had. The Israelis definitely did. But they were a good group of people.
When you came home, were you recognized? Did you get like any kind of medals or like in like World War II kind of like parades or anything like that?
Yeah, we got big parades. It was a complete turnaround from Vietnam. Vietnam was a bad time in American history, not just for the soldiers but for the people, morons. There was a lot of morons back here in the States. My dad was in Vietnam, and they didn't receive too good of a welcome, but we did. We got the whole shooting match, the ticker tape parades, just like World War II had. Commendations, we all got real nice commendations. I got the Bronze Star, Liberation of Kuwait, the Defense of Saudi Arabia, and a National Defense Ribbon off of that campaign.
Thank you for this interview, Mr. Scott.